All right, welcome back to Hot Rod Wagon. What we're going to be building today are going to be the front spindles for the front of the little hot rod wagon for a little 5-spoke solid wheels, non-pneumatic. They don't fill up or anything. They're just solid rubber. We're going to be doing the spindles today. We're going to make a bushing to fit up inside to allow it to ride on the front spindle axle, if you will. This is a M12 by 175 bolt, by about 4.5 inches long or so. But we're going to make it so it slides nice and tight, rotates around. There's no wiggle in that at all. We're also going to be doing some mild suspension to the thing and put a little spring in it in the front end. We'll show a video of that as well and how to do that. First and foremost, a couple of the parts that we have. The outside tubing that I'm using, very simple. It's basically plumbing pipe. It's black oxide, 1/2 inch by 12-inch nipple. It did have the threaded sections on both ends. I did cut those off. Like I said before, your M12 by 175 pitch bolt. You're going to need some 5/16 by 24 all thread. This is what I used. You can also use a 5/16 24 pitch bolt if you want, or anything that you want to use. This just happens to fit really nice in the spindle of the wheel. So that's what we're using there. Obviously we need a nut as well. Some other tools that we're going to need to drill the pipe, tap the pipe, run the all thread into the pipe, then we'll run the nut down, tighten it up. We will weld the nut down, put the bushings in, chamfer the bushings so everything fits perfectly, cut everything off and make it so it fits here. Now the bushing material is quite interesting in itself. It's this really long piece of garden tubing, plumbing tubing, I don't know what it is. It's got some weird name, shark bite something or another, I don't know what it is. But it works really nice with the bolt, with the M12 bolt. It slides in there really nice and allows a nice slide and fit. The reason I did that is the wagon that we're building is a really small wagon, so I didn't want a very large bolt to fit down the diameter of this. Like I said, this is 1/2 inch, so this stuff in here is quite large. You can see that the fit in there, it just wiggles around. So I needed to find something to fit inside there, or a bushing that would fit this and make everything a little bit smaller. This is what I found at your local hardware store. Is this little shark bite plastic plumbing of some sort, and that's what I'm using as the bushing on the inside here. So now that we know what's going on, let's get started. We'll take you over to the my vise over there, which is also part of my saw. We're going to mark the pipe. Both of these, by the way, they're 2-inch cut. This is just what I'm using. You can use whatever you want. Both of these were just cut at 2 inches. I'm going to mark this at a 1/2 inch. I'll put a dot there. We're going to drill it and tap it for the all thread, and we're going to put that in, and we'll do that over there at the vise. All right, we have our 2-inch piece of pipe that we cut, stuck up here in the vise. What we're going to do is we're going to measure 1/2 inch from the end here. Doesn't matter which end. This is just what I'm choosing to do, 1/2 inch from there. So I'll use a pair of mics there, 0.5000. That is of an inch, so 1/2 inch. I'll go ahead and mark it or scribe it, whatever you want to call it, from the end here. So I have a reference mark of where I'm doing it. All right, so that's good there. Then we'll take center punch and the hammer. I'll center punch it so I know what's going on, and it gives you a good, nice spot for the drill to go ahead and get going. Okay, so we got our center punch in there. Like I said, I'm going to be tapping it with the tap. It's going to be the 5/16 24 tap is what I'm going to be using. Now I'll let you know now I'm not using the correct drill bit sizing for a 5/16 24 tap. The bits I'm going to be using 5/32 of an inch, which is the little one here, 5/32 of an inch, and I'm going to go ahead and step it up to the 1/4 inch drill bit, a little bit bigger drill bit, and then I will tap it out with this here and get the threads put in there. Alright, so we're going to use a little bit of cutting oil for the bit so the bit can grab and not do anything crazy. Cutting oil. Like I said, we're going to drill with our 5/32 drill bit for our small hole here. More cutting oil. Make life easy for yourself. We'll go ahead and enlarge this one here. So this is the 1/4 inch drill bit. Always wear your safety glasses. I'm just going to go ahead and clean all this off here, get all the chips out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and run the tap in. I won't bore you guys with that. Like I said, the 5/16 24 tap. I'm going to tap this hole and we'll come back and we'll move on from there. Alright, so we tapped that hole on top after drilling it. You can see the tap lines there from the tap. Now what we want to make sure of when we do this is we're going to be putting the bushing inside of here, obviously, to allow the bolt, that M12 bolt, to slide in and out of there. So what we want to do when we put the all thread in, and we thread this in here, is make sure that we don't go too far in with the thread, with the rod, I should say. A little bit problem. There we go. It's got to get it lined up properly. So what you want to do is you want to thread this rod in just until you see the threads show through. That way it won't interfere with that M12 bolt that runs through. Okay. So once you have the rod, or once you put the rod through there, and I had the right stick out inside of there, I went ahead and I'll just take this nut and I'll lock this nut down. Now this nut will essentially double nut itself. So you have a top nut here, this is threaded, so essentially you're almost double nutting these two together, which will cause this rod to never move anywhere. So you're not going to need to Loctite it in there or anything like that. Now what I'm going to do also, and you notice probably on the front one, is after I tighten this down, I'm also going to weld it. That way I can guarantee that it will never move again, at least this piece. The rod itself will not come out. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten this down. Like I said, just make sure you have just a little bit sticking through. That way you know that the rod is run all the way through there. I'll tighten this nut down. I'm going to weld it in 3 spots. Then we'll come back and we'll finish up with the bushing install. Alright, so we got the nut welded on there. Put the 3 welds. 1, 2, 3. I think I'm going blind on the other side here. 3 welds. That way that nut is never going to come off of the pipe, and the thread will not unscrew as well. So what we're going to do now, sorry for the shaky cam, put you guys back in the stand here. What we're going to do now, we're going to turn our attention to the bushing that's going to go inside of this thing. Now the bushing that we're going to use, like I was saying before, is this white plumbing stuff. I know it says shark bite on it. I have no idea. It measures OD as 5/8. ID measurement 15/32 is the inner diameter of it. It was $2 for like 5 feet of it. It was really cheap, so it's kind of a disposable thing. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna chalk it up here in the vise. We'll undo this piece of work here. We'll set that off to the side. It's really soft, this material too. So we're gonna go ahead and just put it up here in the vise. We'll put a little piece here, and we're gonna cut it off. Now you could use a pipe cutter, you could use a saw, you could use a razor blade. I mean, this stuff is pretty thin. I'm gonna use, this is some giant cable cutters. I've had these for a while laying around. I used to be an electrician down in Miami, and it took a nice little chunk out of it right there. Whoops, oh well. But what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna stick these things on here and just make them like a pipe cutter essentially, and just rock this back and forth, and just cut me off a piece of this pipe here, and that way we have a little bit something smaller to work with. Our little piece to deal with here. Now what this is going to do is we're essentially going to slide this piece into here. The fitment is fairly close, but since this is fairly soft, and this is hard, we're going to essentially press fit or squeeze this into this hole here. Now what it's going to end up doing is I'm going to push this all the way down until it stops, and what it's going to do is it's going to stop on those threads that are sticking out of this pipe. And then once it stops, we'll just cut off the excess. We'll take the excess that's there, we'll put it on this side here, and we'll press this one in this way till it stops, and we'll cut the excess off there as well, and then we'll have bushings on both sides that will consume this section here and this section here. Now there obviously will be a little bit of a gap in between here because we're pushing it in up to the rod that's sticking out, but I'm not really too worried about it. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to kind of by hand get it started. There we go, you can see it just kind of starts itself there. I'm actually able to just push this down with hand. Look at that, huh? Trial and error. Look, we kind of get some things done without machines sometimes. So I don't know if you guys can see here what kind of crazy shaky cam. So you can see there that plastic piece pushes all the way up to the threads that stick out. And those threads do not go past that plastic bushing. So we're not going to have any interference with that bolt. So what we'll end up doing, we'll just take this, we'll stick it in here in the vise, and we'll go ahead and we'll cut off the excess that we have here, and then we'll flip it around and we'll put it in, sorry, out of the camera there, we'll put it in this side. I might be able to see we've got our two spindles made, and there's the one. This is the one we just made on the video here. This was the original that I made. The lighting, I do apologize, is not really great, but you can see both of them are filed, bushings in both ends, front and rear. Like I said, I welded those nuts on there. That way I just knew it wasn't going to come off or really go anywhere for me. And like I said, that bushing was two things. One, so I could reduce the size of the main bolt that I was going to be using. I reduced it down to using an M12 as opposed to like a giant, like I don't know, it was like a 3/4 or half-inch, some crazy giant bolt, and I just didn't want to use that. So two reasons: one, for these bushings is to shrink the diameter that I could use on the bolt, and two, to create a smooth surface for this to rub on, so it's not, you know, metal onto metal. You can see both of them slide on, turn very, very easily. They slide up and down. I'll be doing another video about putting some front springs, some sort of suspension for the hot rod wagon. Here's the other one. You can see, slides in, nothing crazy. Slides around, nice and easy. Slides up and down. So these will work in, obviously, the more that we start going around. But simple tools. You don't need anything fancy. I didn't use anything fancy, obviously. You could use it with a hacksaw if you wanted to. You don't have to have a big saw. All of these parts you can purchase at any local hardware store and make this happen. You know, the wheels have a little spacer on the inside of them, which is kind of a nonsense. I don't know why they did that, but you can see that I can't get this in. Just kidding. They have a weird spacer on the inside of them. For these, they're bearings too. They have a bearing on both sides. Oh, that's some crappy lighting. But there's a bearing on both sides of the wheel, and there's a spacer that rattles around on the inside. So to get these things to line up properly is sometimes a little tricky. There we go. There we go. So spindle, good to go. Like I said, that does it for both of them, and they're bushed. So stay tuned for some more videos and some more travels on this little hot rod wagon lowered radial flyer that we're doing, and it'll be a fun little journey for everybody. See you guys next time.